y'all was trying to type in? Is that the dragon fruit tea? That's the dragon fruit tea. Take it off mute. Which one? That's a dragon. That's a dragon fruit tea.
Can I pick my finger up to press the goddamn button? It's a refresher, not a tea. But yeah.
It's a dragon fruit though.
Mango dragon fruit.
That shit fire. That shit fire. But it's the dragon fruit. It's a refresher. It's not the dragon. It's not a tea. Nigga, it's the dragon fruit tea. That's what a relationship looks like. A real relationship right there. It's the dragon fruit, but it's not tea. It's a refresher. What difference do it make? She knew what I meant. And that's the thing about it. You knew what I meant. But it's not tea. It's a refresher. That makes it different. Beverages are for sure hard. That's the intro. And that's what it's like when you got a woman that go to Starbucks in your life. You got to know the difference between your refreshers and your teas. We finna slide over here to this Contiana, man. We back to the East Coast cribs. We finna jump into this Contiana. It's finna be a good one. Let's get into it. Let's gizzo.
Intelligence that day. They was operating on a whole nother situation that didn't involve Too Cool, but Doc still gave the word out that Too Cool was a rat after this situation. And at this point, once the feds realized Too Cool was compromised, they told him to step back because they didn't want him killed over here in the coast. But at this time, after he's done working with the feds, Too Cool goes down for pimping his granddaughter, a minor at the time. And mind you, he was still on federal probation from being a snitch in that F-13 case. But this is what I meant when I said this is probably the nastiest person we gonna touch on this channel. Pimping his granddaughter.
Selling your granddaughter, that's a different level of diabolical. Like I said in the last video, this nigga is a super villain.
Underage granddaughter. And at this time, the jailhouse diagnoses this dude with depressive disorder, psychotic symptoms, antisocial personality disorder, and hallucinations. But I think all that was a play.
Oh, he in there playing crazy.
Because while he was sitting down, he still was calling the feds, acting like he was a member of the team. He called his federal handlers and asked them if they can put an extra TV remote in the pod because they only had two. Too Cool is crazy, man. This dude right here is the nasty.
And like I said in the last video, snitching and then calling your federal handler, for sure. And then calling your federal handlers to make sure you got an extra remote while you in jail for the TV. Yes, a TV remote, the channel changer. This nigga has no boundaries, bro. This nigga has no boundaries at all, bro. Like, nigga, you are in jail. How you calling us asking for a goddamn TV changer?
See his homeboy, Snitch, anything.
Draco, yes they are.
Hey, man. Too Cool is a piece of work. But he was sentenced to 5 years for pimping his granddaughter. And when he got out for that case, the feds picked him up for the federal parole violation.
The feds picked him up because he's a piece of shit, bro. Pimping your granddaughter, you're a different level of low. Nigga, like I said, get this nigga off the streets. Somebody else said in the chat, get that nigga out the universe, on God. Get that nigga out the whole universe, bro. Like, let's take this nigga out the whole just equation. Somebody send this nigga somewhere else. Man, but here go the thing about it. He's a dangerous individual because he'll unalive you. He'll unalive you. He'll tell on you. He'll pimp his granddaughter. He'll unalive one of his homies. And he'll call the feds from jail to get a TV changer. This is the most dangerous individual walking the streets. There's nothing you could do unless you're going to pow him. But if you pow him, this is the same nigga that can call the feds and get a TV remote in jail. So do you want to pow that type of level of informant? There's no way to deal with this nigga without throwing your life away. He's unbeatable, bro, because he has no standards and no boundaries.
Due to that case. Now, the key thing is what we see in the trial, the defense, of course, wants to tell the jury, hey, this guy's nasty. He's pimping his granddaughter. He's a dirty character, because they want the jury to find him to be an incredible witness. But the judge is not allowing Doc.
I didn't want them to see. I had to make sure. I had to look to make sure they couldn't see.
Defense team to bring those specific facts out.
Specific words of heart.
They wanted to be a fair trial, so they only let the defense say that he was convicted of human trafficking of a minor. But since he was picked up for that federal violation, when he got out, this is when he decided to cooperate on Doc Thone. Now, mind you, Doc was already in the right for calling this dude a snitch in 2015. Here we are in 2020, and now he's actually snitching on Doc. And prior to this, he already had a green light from the Florida NCIS and from East Coast. Now, before the situation, he did give the feds Doc's phone number, but he didn't talk about the 2003 murder at all with Doc. Because in his words, when he seen Doc in the county in 2004 for that murder, he thought that situation was done. He thought there was nothing he could say, but in this new Rico trial, he told the jury what Doc told him about how he beat that murder. And of course, like many other confidential witnesses, he was getting paid by the feds. When he asked for them TV remotes for the tier, they also put some money on his books. And it said up until the point where he testified in this Rico, he had made about $3,200 off of the feds, and they was paying for his living situation since he had to move around because of his green lights. And his total so far added up to about $14,000 that he received in meals, housing, and cash from the feds. Now, it was said that he did multiple rehearsals with the feds in order to testify against Doc. And I'm going to tell you, when looking at the trial, this dude was very comfortable. And like I said, he was probably the worst witness to have on this case because he was willing to just tell it all, even though he still got 2 sons from East Coast. Now, I don't know their standings, but
I mean, but shit, he pimped out one of his son's daughters, so like shit, he don't care about nothing. Like this nigga's like Dr. Eggman from Sonic. No, even Dr. Eggman from Sonic had a chance to kill Tails, and he was like, "No, we're not finna do that. We don't do that." So even like Dr. Eggman from Sonic had a boundary. This nigga don't even got no boundaries. Somebody's got to knock the rings out of this nigga. Shit, you feel me?
Too Cool is the biggest rat we may ever speak on Rap News Street Politics. Now, before Doc went down for the guns and ammunition in 2016, a situation transpired with the 7-4 Hoovers that this indictment alleged Doc was involved in. And that's the early morning murder of Reginald Brown, a.k.a. Red, from 7-4 Hoovers.
So I'm sitting there doing all of this satanic shit, and I'm putting curses on Swans and Hoovers and Broadways, and I'm doing this curses and shit. I'm up here doing all this shit.
You niggas brought Satan into this? Okay, boundaries.
And the homies, we on the streets in my mother's garage in the back. I mean, her shack. She had a patio. She let me turn the patio into a shack.
Now, on the morning of November 13, 2014, Reginald Brown is washing his car on 83rd and Broadway. His wife was in the house, and a lady named Vilma Guzman was walking her daughter to the store at about 8 o'clock in the morning. At this point, it said that a white Escalade pulls up with covers on the license plates and stops just past Red's house. It said that somebody who's kind of chubby with curly hair jumps out of the Escalade with an AK-47, and they end up letting off on Red 7 times, hitting him 4 times in the front, 3 times in the back with the K, and killing him over here on 83rd. Now, like I said, his wife was inside the house and said the shots were so loud it sounded like they was inside the crib. She runs outside and says Red died in her arms at 8:30 in the morning, November 2014. Now, Velma says she saw...
God bless that man and God bless that woman that had to see that. That's... God bless him. God bless him. God bless him.
the Escalade creeping up the block. She says she saw somebody get outside the passenger seat and exchange a few words with Red before letting off. She said the guy had a younger build, and of course she couldn't see the license plates. And with the curly hair, we know that's not Doc. But even if it was a wig, she said nothing about a funny walk or a funny run from Doc. So the shooter wasn't Doc. But like Too Cool said, Doc always got them young niggas around him. And I quote, he said, "You gotta be ready to kill some Hoovers and some Swans if you rolling with Doc." Now, of course, the Ring camera did catch some of the situation, but it didn't catch the actual shooter. It only saw the car rolling by, and it saw when Red got hit by the bullets. So it's truly a partial video. Now, randomly, a week later, the main detective on this case received 2 tips. One from the sheriffs, somehow implicating Doc as a suspect, and one from an anonymous weed tip saying Doc's name as well. Now, at this point, they ended up getting a low for Doc, and figured out that he had a 2003 white Escalade that was registered to his name, and they seen it parked behind his crib on 65th. Now, even though he had an Escalade, that doesn't mean he's a part of the murder. Another key thing is that Vilma, when she made her statement, she doesn't speak English, so she gave her statement in Spanish. And she said the Escalade was either white or a beige clearish color. The funny thing is, on the tape, another beige Cadillac Escalade had rolled through as well. But of course, based on trajectory and timing of the situation, they honed in on this white Escalade. But even still, that didn't fully implicate Doc in this situation. And that's when the case started to slow down in 2015. So 9 months after this, on July 24th, 2015, LAPD gang detectives was rolling through the six-pack, and they ended up turning on 62nd and Broadway, where they see 5 dudes from East Coast whooping somebody ass in the street. He said them people got into their car and ended up rolling up to 65th and Broadway. At this point, the detectives blurped them and took everybody down. Now, it said that people got out the car, was scrambling and trying to run, so they brought in extra detectives to kind of canvass the scene. At this point, they located a Sienna minivan and flashed their flashlight in it and ended up seeing an AK-47 in the back of this minivan. Of course, they told him...
A chopper in the Sienna? Y'all was finna have a hell of a soccer practice, huh? The Sienna? Nigga, that's a... Goodness gracious.
Minivan off 65th, and they ended up finding out that Lil Doc Thone is the one that rented this minivan. Now, when they seized the AK-47, of course, it wasn't in the suspect vehicle that was used in Red's murder. And there's a protocol with LAPD where, for some reason, they do ballistic testing immediately on handguns, but they don't do it immediately on rifles. So in 2015, they have this AK-47 in Doc's rented minivan, and nothing's done about it. But when Doc goes down in 2016 for them firearm charges, he's on the phone talking about this AK-47.
Man, talking about your crime. If y'all don't get nothing from watching all these Rico's kids, stop talking about your... First of all, don't do crime. But if you're going to do crime, stop talking about your crimes on the phone, kids. Let's stop talking about all crimes on the phone. Like, that just needs to just overall just cease and desist.
And this is when they brought in an MDC intelligence officer, Steve Gagliardi. This is the same dude right now who's listening to Brick Baby calls, listening to Loose Cannon calls, and Big U calls, if there's any.
Hey, Steve.
We know Brick and Loose be on these phones. I don't know what they're talking about, but this intelligence officer is the one that receives the subpoena to pull these phone calls from MDC and these federal prisoners. Now, oddly enough, he says the MDC keeps these records for about 180 days, but they're pulled, again, off subpoenas. And on these phone calls, Doc expressed that he was worried about these dudes finding that AK. And these are the same phone calls that he had with Ace and Tiny Bugsy in regards to Too Cool being a snitch at this time. But nonetheless, Doc goes in and out of federal prison without LAPD homicide detectives linking this AK-47.
So it seemed like that's the same thing that happened with Brick. It seemed like they gonna let you walk on this gun just until all the other stuff get out the way, and then when all the other stuff is out the way, boom, they gonna put you on this gun situation. Because that's the same thing that they say that Brick Baby has going on right now. So it just seemed like that's how they play with these situations.
To this murder. Now in 2017, Tony Wallace is interviewed. This is Doc's nephew, and oddly enough, he stayed in the back house behind Red. Now it's said that Tony Wallace is from Nutty Block, not from the coast. And initially, they was looking at him as a suspect, but the gun still hadn't been tested in 2017. It didn't get a ballistics test done until 2018. And even then, the lead detective at the time still didn't know about the murder. It wasn't until it hit the cold case file desk that a new detective picked it up and seen that the bullets from Red's murder matched this AK-47. And this is when Doc...
You can have a little bit of water. Give Harper a little bit of water. Just a little, though.
Doc is questioned in 2020 and they built this whole Rico case.
Then y'all
on.
start brushing y'all teeth and washing y'all face and get ready for bed.
Now, some crazy shit, man. They said Doc made some statements about this AK, man. When they asked him how I got in the minivan, Doc said Infant Hood had threw it in the back of the minivan around that situation where them dudes from the coast had went down by the minivan on 65th. And it said that Doc identified a photo of Infant Hood.
Damn.
And the crazy thing is, fingerprint evidence of the hatchback on the minivan did have Infant Hood's fingerprints on it. And Doc said Infant Hood had slid it into the minivan and made Doc aware
Huh? Brook in the morning. The Brook and yeah, I got you. You can watch Brook and Jubal. You can listen to Brook and Jubal. I know nobody else can understand what he's saying, but I understand him perfectly. Like people are like, what he say? He wants to when he wakes up in the morning, he wants to listen to Brook and Jubal. That's what he wants to listen to. Brook and Jubal in the morning. That's what he wants to listen to.
that it was hot. He told the feds that Infant Hood told him that he was putting in work with
Right, now go to sleep like the twins. Yeah, I mean, what's the deal?
the K due to his sister being shot at some point. But the key thing is, in this interview, it said that Doc bought up this AK by himself. He didn't let detectives bring it up. He bought it up after they showed Doc a picture of Reginald Brown and his nephew, Tony Wallace. It seemed like he tried to jump ahead of the interview and jump the gun on some facts. When they showed him the picture of those two individuals,
Love you. Good night, Papa.
Good. What 16 euro?
Yeah, take her out. Let her pee first.
he replied, I know where you're going with this. And then he said his lawyer had told him an AK was used in a murder of Red. But detectives alleged that at that time, when he was in federal custody, nobody knew anything about that AK-47 and the murder being correlated. But if those statements weren't enough for Doc, we got the next confidential witness from 6 Deuce East Coast Crip, Ashanti Harrison, aka Devil. Now this is another older dude, younger than Doc, but still an older dude from East Coast who was put on in 96. And at the time of his testimony, he was also facing a federal charge, possession of firearm.
You at work? Take it off mute. You at work?
Huh?
Say you at work?
Yep.
All right, call me on your break.
Okay.
All right, love
I
you.
don't have one of those, but
Good night.
When you're sleeping, I'm gonna come to your bed.
Okay.
Wanna let sis come in your bed?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I love you, little buddy.
Love you.
Wanna say good night to Dejanay?
Good night, DJ.
good night.
Good night.
Say good night, chat.
Good night, Jack.
All right. Good night. Love you. All right. I'll text you when you're done. Just call me when you finish. All right. Love you. Bye. My bad, Joe. I had to put my house to sleep. Let's get back into it.
And had prior convictions of possession of cocaine. Like I said, all these dudes career criminals, and they've already been through the federal system, seasoned vets, taking the stand. Now, Devil goes far back as well, just like Too Cool, where he was also in the county in 2004 when Doc was fighting the murder of Ray Dog, and said that Doc also told him that he committed the murder of Ray Dog and he had to set an example. Now, Devil also stayed on 65th and had a good relationship with Doc, but he started to cooperate in 2019 when he went down for this federal gun charge for a firearm. Now, he caught that case in 2016. It was supposed to be a state case, but the feds ended up picking it up, and he went on the run for 3 years and didn't get caught until 2019. He had a fake face and everything, but when he went down in 2019, he started cooperating and telling on every
Wait, you say he had a fake face?
gun charge for a firearm. Now, he caught that case in 2016. It was supposed to be a state case, but the feds ended up picking it up, and he went on the run for 3 years and didn't get caught until 2019. He had a fake face and everything. But
Where the hell do you get a fake face from? Like, what? Is that a mask, nigga? Like, is a fake face a mask?
when he went down in 2019, he started cooperating and telling on everybody.
What Jason Marshall said.
Even told on the DMV people that hooked him up with the face. This is why everybody got to go get their faces from MacArthur Park. People,
Yeah, like, nigga, where the hell you get a fake face from? Like, a lot of things. Look, we got this nigga pimping his granddaughter. We got this nigga unaliving his homie, and then knocking some more ninjas down, and then snitching, and then a fake face, a fake social. Okay, like a fake social security card. I'm thinking, I'm high. I'm thinking the niggas walking around with like a face. Like, what the fuck you get a fake face from? A profile. Okay, a profile. That nigga said a fake face. I'm high. Let's get a mask. This is a hell of a mask. Where do you get these masks from? I'm trying to mask up and fake face and go see about some shit. Profile. Got it. Faces are hard.
Started cooperating and telling on everybody. He even told on the DMV people that hooked him up with the face.
Okay. Got it. I'm high. Boy, I thought this nigga was walking around with a mask that was worth 1,000 faces. Don't worry about it.
Why everybody gotta go
on some Hollow Man shit. I swear to God, bro. I thought this nigga was a master of disguise.
go get their faces from MacArthur Park. People like him. Now the cold part is he was dating a female who was also from East Coast, and her brother is Lil Ran or Lil Ranster, aka Daryl Hooks, from the coast. And his girl
because he said fake face so casually. I'm like, listen, this fucking fake face. Where the hell did you get? What the hell is going on here?
ended up calling the feds on him, telling them where he was at when he was on the run, and is the sole reason why he went down, and pretty much is the catalyst for why he's even on the stand testifying against Lil Doc. Now, when he got caught, they put him right in the car with this homicide detective, and they hit him with the, you know how the game goes. You can help us out, and you can be in the cut. This is when he proceeded to tell detectives about who was running the six-pack, where he mentioned Lil Snake, Roscoe, and he also mentioned other OGs like Doc, Limes, Lie, Bone, Greedy, other dudes that he said was running programs in the coast. And these homicide detectives wanted to know.
It's like in the 80s, all the OGs share names. Every hood got a nigga named Bone. What
he knew about the murder of Red. So the crazy thing is, Red was a neighborhood mechanic, and Devil used to get his car fixed by Red. Even though Red was from Hoover, he was an older dude. Devil said they weren't aggressive towards each other. It was just business. And he had no problem dealing with Red. Now, he said on the morning that Red was killed, Doc pulled up with some little homies in his Escalade and caught Devil outside on 65th and told him to watch out because Red from Hoover just got dropped. Now, he didn't say he just dropped Red, the homies just dropped Red, but Devil testified that Doc hit the block that morning, letting people know it's hot outside. Now, this is somebody that flipped out of nowhere. This is somebody that said he's scared in trial, he had to move out the way, and during trial, Lil Rand's sister leaked his address as well. So this is another dude with the green light. He said he only had one bad bump in with Doc, where it was kind of like a situation where they both had their hand on their pistol in the argument. He said he was scared of Doc, but he also said he would administer DPs on Doc's word. And he also played a loose cannon role when he went to the weed shop that Doc was extorting, and he tried to go in there and shake him down without Doc. They told him, get out of here, bring Doc back, and we'll give you whatever you want. And this is where he started to become jealous of Doc because he felt that he shouldn't have to come back with Doc to get what he wanted if Doc was able to get what he wanted. Now, when he first met with LAPD, he implicated somebody else from the coast that he wasn't getting along with in the murder of Red because of their disdain towards the Hoovers.
We ended up getting into it with him a lot, so we started having gunplay.
But in trial, not only did he try to implicate Doc in the murder of Red, but he also tried to implicate him in some murders that he had nothing to do with. And he said he's giving them pistols, weed, and money at different points in time, and he just wanted to cooperate for a lesser sentence in this gun trial. He even tried to cover his face with a mask, and they made him take his mask off. But it did come out that Doc had told somebody that Red had previously told Doc to turn his music down when he was in front of his house. And that probably led to some gangbanging shit, which resulted in Red losing his life. But another thing that the feds used, oddly enough, was Kev Max.
Hey, real quick, What is it? Verdi, that ish go. Hey, you said something in my chat, bro. And I ain't on you, but I'm on you, bro. You said something. It was something about black and browns. But you made it unnecessarily racial in the defense of Mexicans, and we weren't even talking about that. I can't remember what it was. I should have screenshotted it. If you a G, you would tell me what you said, and we can just take our fade real quick, and then we can be back to being homies. But we gotta go ahead and take that in the back, though. You gotta fade.
Interviews to prove some of Doc's statements and to show the courtroom exactly how Doc walked, to go along with some of the testimonies that was heard on the stand. They said that he liked to brag and boast in these interviews about his power, about his big homie and his namesake operating on people, which is why they call him Doc, and about him having control over the...
Hey, that's a hood name. They call me Doc because I get to operate on you niggas. That right there. That's diabolical. That nigga saying my name is Doc because I get to operate on you niggas. Barnacles.
Coast. And they also watched him speak freely about violence. And the thing is, this is not just for KevMac channel, not just for Street TV, not just for No Jumper. The fans don't care about the platform. The special agent that pulled all of the YouTube videos off of KevMac channel said he don't even know who KevMac is. He had no interest in contacting KevMac, and he had no interest in figuring out how and if the videos on his channel were even edited. And how AI is nowadays, all these videos could be edited, but the feds didn't care about that. All they cared about was they heard and seen Doc talking and heard what he said and used it against him, and had no contact with Kev Mac. So everybody gotta be careful what they talking about and how they talking on any of these platforms. You know, it's one thing to ask some leading questions and publish it, but it's a whole nother thing to answer these questions and let it come out your mouth that you committing crimes. Because the feds is for sure watching, and they don't need to subpoena anybody to play these tapes back in court. Now, not only did Doc have the little homies around him, he also had the flockers around him as well. So they had another confidential witness from East Coast in this case, named Gary Henry, aka G or G Thing from 6 Deuce East Coast. He seemingly was mad at Doc because he felt like Doc broke the rules. And that's pertaining to Doc's cousin, Stormin' Norman Speck.
What we did though, we stayed there for years, for about 5 years, held our block down, fighting the Swans. A lot of us went to YA, a lot of us went to PN too that was older. Devil, 74 Hoover, his brother Stinker Blue, my cousin Stormin' Norman.
Gary and Norman is partners in crime, professional bank robbers who were a part of the Palm Tree Bandits, a robbery crew that was popping in the city between November 2015 and 2016. And as you can see, construction vests and construction hats were a part of their MO. And it said that they got the name
Stormin' Norman is a cool name.
The Palm Tree Bandits because they had crashed into a palm tree after one of the robberies. Now, at this time that he testified, G-Thang was in custody for a bank robbery. But him and Stormin' Norman have bank robberies that date
Stormin' Norman's a pretty cool name, I'm just saying.
all the way back to about 2001. But when they got out from their first bank robbery, this is when Norman introduced Gary to Doc around 2006. Now, Stormin' Norman was also from 6'9 East Coast, and he stayed in the same crib as Doc, or at least they shared a yard together, but he also stayed on 65th. But the key thing is, Gary and Doc got a little bit closer in 2016 when they was in MDC together. They was actually cellies in MDC. He said Doc was running the floor and of course was administering punishment to anybody that broke the rules. He said at one point, Doc ordered him to do a DP on somebody that was snitching. Gary said he carried the DP
The irony. The fucking irony.
out how it was supposed to be done, and Doc replied, "I told you so." But the lines seemingly got blurred because at this time, Gary, Stormin' Norman, and their co-defendants, Michael Spencer, aka Short Dog, Orlando Soto, aka Infant, and Edgar Santos and Daniel Ochoa were down for armed bank robbery and possession, use, carry, and brandishing a firearm in furtherance of and during and in relation to a crime of violence, as well as aiding and abetting. A multi-count indictment that alleged multiple bank robberies throughout LA County. Now, at
Here's
this
the thing about that. At that point, it don't matter if you did or if you didn't do it. Your ass finna be charged with some of them robberies. They could put you in around the same time. Yeah, your ass gonna catch some robberies too. It don't matter if you did, it don't matter if you did. It don't matter if you did, it don't matter if you didn't. They gonna catch you for what they know they can catch you with, and everything outside of that, you gonna be charged with that too.
This time, G-Thang went to meet his lawyer. This was after he served his DP that Doc ordered. Went to meet his lawyer. His lawyer gave him paperwork on Norman Storman, Doc's cousin. He said Norman Storman is cooperating. So G-Thang mixes Norman's paperwork up with his and takes it back to his cell. Now this is pivotal right here because like I said, there's only a couple ways people gonna know who's snitching in their case when they already down. This is why we have to wait and see what Brick Baby and Loose Cannon and these dudes is doing because ain't no paperwork being produced. It's just a bunch of allegations and that's bunk. But Gary Henry was making no allegations. He bought the paperwork straight to Doc and said, Doc, your cousin's snitching on these bank robberies. Doc said it's a no-go. Storm and Norman can't be touched. And this is where G-Thang was lost in the sauce. He felt Doc was breaking the rules and playing favoritism as...
Of course he's breaking the rules and playing favoritism. Storming Norman is his cousin. He not finna storm Norm.
Sometimes it does go in the hood. Now, the crazy thing is, prior to this situation, Storm and Norman was in state custody. He wasn't even down for these robberies. Where he said he was in state custody and he ran into somebody who went down for a bank robbery that he know they didn't commit. He knew exactly who did commit the bank robbery. And he said enough was enough. And out of the blue, in September 2016, Norman Speck, in custody, calls the FBI. He called the FBI, in his words, just to report the bank robberies because he was tired. He was tired of being part of the robberies, and
Damn, Norman.
he was sick of it. And the crazy thing is, at the same time, Michael Spencer then called the FBI and said he's done. He's snitching. Everything fell apart, man. And what y'all got to realize, what a lot of people don't tell you, especially a lot of these street dudes, what they don't tell you is how it really feel on this side of the tracks when you committing crimes and when you doing certain shit. A lot of people don't tell you the nerves that come behind that. When you go put in work, they can't describe to you how you just looking over your shoulder at everything, running that shit back in your head to see if you missed a step. Are they on to me? What did I do? You know, did I do it right? Or like, man, I made a mistake. They got my ass. Because what it sounds like is Storm and Norman and Short Dog knew that the end was near and they tried to jump ahead of it because they knew they made a mistake. Their nerves was eating them up. And not everybody can stay solid, as we see. Some people are good at adversity and they keep building on top of adversity. Some people are going to break. That's what we see on every case because people's nerves get to them. Career criminals. Everybody in this case has been in the feds and the state fighting crazy cases. And in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, they decide to hang it up and start telling. But the crazy thing is, not even 100,000 was made on these bank robberies. It said that Gary Henry is the one that organized the Palm Tree Bandits. He only made off with about 85 racks across about 10 bank robberies. Some of the bank robberies had takes of 2,100, a couple thousand. And this is also why in October, a month after Norman called, Spencer called the FBI, talking about he's about to boost the federal agent's whole career off the information that he finna tell him. And you can write a book about it, about these bank robberies. And after he seen that they only made 60 to 80,000, Spencer offered to repay that amount for leniency. But the key thing is, after these robberies, Gary said that on a lot of them, they would go back to 65th to Lil Doc's house, count the money up, and also they would break bread with Lil Doc for being the big homie. And Storm and Norman ended up taking a stand on Gary, so Gary ended up taking a stand on Lil Doc. Now, Gary...
you told on me, so I'm gonna tell on him, so he gonna tell on him, so I'm gonna tell on you. This is a domino effect of snitching.
It was already sentenced for these bank robberies to 32 years at the time of his testimony, and he signed a Rule 35 agreement for some leniency and to get them 32 years reduced. He said he also has a green light for doing this to Lil Doc, and that he's not from East Coast no more. And the crazy thing is, the same prosecutors that prosecuted Lil Doc are the same ones that prosecuted Gary in the bank robberies, and why Storm and Norman testified. And at one time, he was very close with Doc. He said Doc House was the hangout spot on 65th, and sometimes Doc would have 2 pistols in his waistband hanging out. This is what I mean by the differences from
This
the
nigga's Yosemite Sam.
East Side and West Side indictment. Doc still gangbanging, 50 years old, outside. But with Doc being cellies with G in MDC, he did speak about this AK in this murder case and the murderer Red with G Thang. He also told G Thang that he killed Ray Dog, shooting him in the forehead. And he said Doc also got in front of the day room one time and told everybody that he was a killer, and everybody knew it. But Gary also told the jury that Doc had not only used the AK to shoot Red, but Doc told him that he also used it on some Hoovers in the Hundreds and had to shoot that block up over there. And all this because he felt like Norman, as a G homie and as Doc's cousin, Doc turned his back on him, took Norman's side.
Can you, again, all this is behind feelings, y'all. Behind feelings, behind feelings, behind feelings, behind feelings. You made me feel this way, so I'm going to do this. You made me feel that way, so I'm going to do that. Nobody can even tell you what the issue is. Everybody can just tell you how it made them feel. Gotta be careful with these feelings, y'all.
Norman ratted on him, so it was over for Doc. Now, he also talked about stabbings that Doc did. And the key thing that the prosecutors brought up, they opened a statement. They say Doc runs East Coast because he keeps a knife in jail and a gun on the street. And he was also talking about stabbings in these YouTube interviews. And there was a case where he stabbed a dude named Deshaun Lewis in MDC. And not too long after he caught the Rico, he was involved in another stabbing. At 56, 57 years old, he's about to be 60 next year, and he's still not playing. Now, another thing that was alleged in the indictment is the extortion. And one thing that most of these confidential witnesses also snitched about was how they seen Doc extorting Rose Holistic Center off 62nd and Broadway. But not only did they tell, the government called another witness, the owner of the weed shop, Garabed Tonian, who took the stand on Lil Doc. Now, this was a very interesting situation between this weed shop and Doc. Now, we've seen the allegations that Big U had with that rat Dale Morrison and the interactions that Big U and his crimees had in shaking down Dale Morrison's weed shop. There are similarities in both indictments, but the outcome was a little bit different. So it was said that Doc had sent some young dudes into the weed shop on 62nd to shake the place up, and then he stepped in, calmed it down, and made some demands, initially for about a rack a month and some weed. But the crazy thing is, Doc used this situation to actually get a job at the weed shop. Him and his wife was working here on 62nd and Broadway doing an honest shift, 8 hours, working 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. as security. Now, the weed shop owner testified that after he employed Doc and started meeting Doc's demands or whatever, that the store on 62nd wasn't robbed anymore. But of course, like everybody, he said that he was terrified on the stand, he was scared of Doc, but he also said Doc was always friendly with him. They was cool. And when Doc went down on that Fed case in 2016, he had one of his homies, Cartoon, pick up his shift from 5 to 1.
Nigga, having your homie pick up your shift after you get picked up by the feds is crazy.
And splitting $100 a day with Cartoon. So basically, this
That nigga did all that for 50 bucks. Goodness gracious.
extortion came from Doc punking this dude out of a job. My thing is, at least he offered to work there. At least he was providing security and trying to make an honest living for a little bit of weed on the side. But of course, the feds paid the weed shop owner a visit, and they used this to prove the extortion leg in this Rico charge. Now, like I said previously, this weed shop was a point of contention between Lil Doc and some dudes from 6 Deuce, because the weed shop was in Six Deuce hood. So dudes from Six Deuce felt like they should have first dibs on extorting this weed shop. But I wonder how they feeling now that this Rico is here, because I'm sure they would have went down in it just like Loose Cannon went down with Big U. Now, in the sentencing memorandum, Doc had many people from the community to speak on this good work that he's done as well. People like Skip Townsend, pastors from different churches, and other people pushing peace in the community, really speaking on the role that Doc played in getting that truce between the East Coast and the Florencias. But prosecutors tried to allege that it was really done for business, so both of these hoods can expand on drug trafficking and that Doc can get some money in his hands for that truce. Now, after the truce happened, it was almost common knowledge. Everybody felt like Doc was being attacked because of that reason. But we've laid out exactly what was transpiring with Doc before that truce. And honestly, if them dudes from the Six Pack hadn't got caught beating that dude ass and driving the 65th where they found that AK-47, Doc wouldn't be in this situation. I don't understand why you would still have a gun 9 months after the murder. I know sometimes them pieces be real pretty. You don't want to let it go. But I feel like that's really the only factor that got him hung up in this.
Like, why do y'all hang on to the murder weapons? Like, bro, let it go.
Rico indictment.
Go get a new blick.
Because he had already beat the murderer Ray Dog. They weren't going to charge him again on that. And there wasn't any evidence. Now, the prosecutors did offer Doc a deal. Like I said, the evidence on the murder was very thin. So they had a plea agreement set up where he didn't have to take responsibility for the murder, since it's common knowledge that he wasn't the shooter, and they would dismiss count 2, but he still would take the Rico charge and face a maximum of 20 years. But Doc rejected the plea deal because he didn't want to accept anything higher than 12 years in this case. Now, the actual shooter of Reginald Brown has never been uncovered, and Doc, who initially was going to testify in his defense, ended up not taking a stand, probably for good reason. Even though the judge did get on the prosecutors for not having their shit together. They were kind of sloppy in this case, and they weren't organized, man. There was a lot of holes in this case to where Doc could have beat it, and that's what we could see from Big U. There's some holes in his case, especially in that murder. So things really have to remain to be seen on who's gonna snitch, because that's what it's all about. But
What I was like picking my tooth, like
The tooth came out? Yeah. Okay. Go to bed.
overall,
When I was like picking my tooth, I was just like, your tooth came out? Yeah, okay. Okay, your tooth came out. I got it. Boys, the teeth came out. You know, parenting. All right, I got you. Just go to bed, though. Thank you.
the jury did find Doc
It wasn't even a baby. It was a 10-year-old.
guilty on both
That's
charges.
how long I've been a parent. Like, I just like, I picked my tooth. Your tooth came out? Yeah, okay. That's how long I've been a parent. I could just figure your tooth, that's okay. Got you. Come on.
And hit him with 420 months in federal prison. 300 months for the Rico on the first charge and 120 months on the second charge in correlation with that homicide. And he's currently
That's really what he came in here for. Like, nigga, you owe me some chili. That's really what he came in here for. I need you to know you owe me some money.
in Northern Kentucky right now at USP McCrary with a release date set for September 25th. But we can see that snitching paid off. Gary Henry G-Thang, who was already in prison for 32 years, he had been sentenced and had only been 3 years into his sentence when he snitched on Doc for them bank robberies.
My kids know the tooth fairy don't exist. They just want their money. They don't care about who bring it. They just want their chili. Six, come here. Come here, Six. Come here.
Got out of prison
Lay down. Lay down.
as soon as he was done taking a stand on Doc in 2022. He got 29 years cut off his sentence for all that telling that he did. And he's at home with his people right now. Norman Speck, who was allegedly the reason that Gary took the stand on Doc, he got out of prison for calling the FBI on them bank robberies. And Devil, Ashanti Harrison, remember, he was down for a possession of firearm charge in the feds. He got out 2 years after he testified in 2024. And after Derek Banks, Too Cool, finished the sentence for pimping on his granddaughter, he did not have to answer to that federal parole violation because he took the stand on Doc. So the only person that's in the feds right now on this Rico is Lil Doc Thone,
That nigga went down by himself. That's crazy.
with 25 years left to go. And that's just crazy to see. But either way, it's free Lil Doc Thone, man. This was a crazy case on the east side.
All right, man. Y'all know the deal. Red dots to the left. Y'all know the rest. Free Avenue Angel Tweets. Free. We gone.